Hey everyone, it's Phil from Red Barn Honeybees, and today we're making the oldest known fermented beverage known to man, mead. So as you can tell, we're doing things a little bit differently here today. We're actually in my house at our kitchen. We're going to be brewing some mead following a recipe found here in the Complete Mead Maker by Ken Schramm. We're going to take you through the whole step-by-step process. We're going to show you how we sanitize everything, how we start the must, which is basically where all the honey, where the yeast goes into and eats up all the sugars, and that what creates the alcohol in the honey wine. So come along and take a look and we'll show you how we do this. So to start, we're going to start off with the most important step, and that's sanitizing everything. We want to make sure that we have any bacteria or anything that may get into the mead and ruin it killed and cleansed. We're going to be using a sanitizer called Star San. You can pick this up at any local brewing store. Here in Minnesota, we use Midwest Brewing Company out of St. Louis Park. If you're ever in the area, they have a ton of selections. They don't carry just things for mead. They have stuff for wine making, kombucha, and beers. So they have everything covered. It's a great place to go and learn. So to start here, we're going to mix 1 ounce of Star San with 5 gallons of warm tap water, hot tap water. Basically, this is going to create a nice bubbly mixture that we'll put all the utensils that we're going to use into to sanitize to make sure that, like I said, we aren't taking any bad bacteria into the mead that could potentially give it some off flavors or anything like that. Now that we have that all full of bubbles, we'll toss in all of our different utensils that we're going to use. So we'll throw in our airlock that we'll show you here later. A little measuring tool here for taking our original gravity. Drill utensil that we'll use to stir and oxygenate the must. And that is it for right now. So the recipe that we're using is pretty simple. This should be a medium sweet mead. I'm hoping it'll be a little bit on the sweeter side. We're actually using 18 pounds of honey instead of 15 like we typically use. So that's what we have right here. Is we have 18 pounds of honey in these 2 bowls. This is some of our cappings runoff from last year. It should be a fall honey, more of a clover honey. After that, we're using 10 grams of Lalvin 71B. This is just the yeast that the recipe called for. We have 4 packs of mead nutrients, so it's yeast nutrient and yeast energizer. All in all, it equals 2 teaspoons of yeast nutrient and 1 teaspoon of yeast energizer. And then just making sure that we had good water. We picked up 4 gallons of distilled water, 3 gallons you want chilling in your refrigerator. We have ours in a cooler with some ice packs cooling it down. And then this other gallon we'll use for the must, so we'll be boiling that here and we'll show you that process. So now a couple of other tools that we're going to use. We have a thermometer gun so that we can take some temperatures, and also you're going to want to have a notebook so that you can write down temperatures, your original gravity, which will help you figure out what your expected ABV is going to be for the alcohol content. It's also good to keep track of if you find maybe you did something a little different in your process and you want to keep track of it and know about it for the next time that you brew another batch of mead. Or you can maybe find that a recipe that you don't like and you can avoid that one in the future. But note taking is important. Alright, so now we're finally on to the fun part. Now we get to start making the mead. So this process now is what we call making the must. We're going to heat it up. We're going to pour in 1 gallon of distilled water. Once that's been boiling for a little while, we'll add in our honey. Alright, now we let this come to a boil. Alright, so we've successfully boiled the water. Now we're going to start adding in our yeast nutrient and energizer. I need to find a place where I can buy this in larger quantities. This is all they had there. Now comes the honey. All this honey we just had in a 5-gallon bucket, full 5-gallon bucket, so that's why it's in these separate bowls right now. I just weighed it out on a scale that we have here. So the temperature of the must right now is about 145 degrees. That should be okay for just now. They'd like it a little bit warmer, but we should be just fine. Now I'm going to go rinse out the fermenter, so the 5-gallon bucket with all the star sand in it and all of our utensils. We'll rinse all the bubbles out of there and get it ready to go. Alright, so we have all the sanitizer and everything out of this bucket. As you can see, there's still some bubbles in there, but that's actually not a problem at all. Now we're going to add in our cool water before we add in the must. So we're going to pour in our 3 other gallons of distilled water. Three gallons in, and now we pour in the must. And we try not to spill to make my wife angry. Alright, now we're at the point where we're going to be rehydrating our yeast. We have 100 milliliters of water here. We need it to be below 100 degrees. Still a little warm, so we're going to give it a little time here. You want to below that 100 degrees so that you actually don't harm the yeast and kill any of it. Once you put the yeast in, you're going to let it sit for 20 seconds and then you'll stir it. Alright, it's showing us that it's at the proper temp. So there's our 10 grams. Now we wait 20 seconds. Here's what the yeast looks like. The temperature of the must is already to pitch, so we'll get it in there. And then we're going to oxygenate it for a little while, which means we're going to be using our drill to help stir it and really get a ton of oxygen in there, because that's what the yeast needs to get a good head start and for it to start its fermenting process properly. So we want the must below 70 or 80 degrees. Right now it's at about 77.4 degrees. So we'll add in our yeast. So now we're going to take our original gravity reading, and this will help us figure out what our ABV is going to be at the end, so we can kind of tell how much alcohol is going to be in this mead. So I got the wrong kind of hydrometer. It only goes up to 1.07. Mead starting at this, according to the recipe, the starting OG should be about 1.12. So I wasn't able to get a reading there. I'll have to go get a different one and see what it ends up being. So rookie mistake here. This is my first time brewing mead, so I'm gonna make some mistakes. If you see anything that I did wrong or that you would do differently, please let me know in the comments. I'd be happy to hear what they are. So finally now we're going to put on our lid. So now we're going to put on our water lock, and that's this little contraption here. We'll fill it up partially with water, and that will allow the gas to come out of the bucket, but nothing to get in, like dust or anything like that that could potentially cause issues for us. So as gas is produced, that little interior piece will lift up and it will let bubbles out the sides and escape out the top here. but I won't let any debris or anything like that come in. Once that starts bubbling, I'll do a follow-up video once we do our racking, which basically means we're taking it from this primary fermenter and we're moving it to its secondary fermenter. After about 2 weeks, the yeast will all die off and kind of settle on the bottom, and we'll want to move it to its final resting place just to get it off of that in case there's anything bad in there. And that'll help with the finishing of the flavors. So all in all, this mead will not be ready to drink for about 6 to 9 months, and it will get better as we age it even longer than that. So we'll have to kind of take our time and see where we go from there. So this was a very basic mead today. This is just going to be pure honey and water and yeast are the only 3 ingredients in here right now. Moving forward, what I'd like to try to do eventually is start doing some fruit flavored ones. Those are called melomels, and that is where we would have either added in like apples and vanilla or strawberries or cherry, and you can even use different things like black tea or different spices and things like that to kind of help change up your flavors and kind of get a whole bunch of different varieties. The other thing with this is that we won't be carbonating this. This is going to be a still mead, but eventually I would like to try adding some carbonation to it and seeing what that does to it too. So the possibilities are endless, and it kind of lets your creativity go, and you can try as many different things as you want to. So if you see a flavor or something you would like to see us try, just let us know down in the comments. Thank you again for watching these videos. It really does mean a lot to us. If you want to take a second and hit that like button and also subscribe, it really does help out the channel with you watching it. It helps us get it out to the different audiences and for other people to start seeing these videos. So we really appreciate it. Thanks. Now's the not so fun part. Cleaning up.